Right, we are live. Check some audios quick, make sure we're all good to go across all the platforms. Give a good check on the YouTube side of things. YouTube's good. Facebook streamed across. Facebook's good too. So hello everyone, welcome back to 100 Proof Whitetails, back down here at the bar again. I got my good buddy and client Jimmy down here tonight. Came over, and even though he didn't have to bring one, he brought a bottle too to share. So I really appreciate that, Jim. And we're going to be talking this kind of late October strategy, what you got going on,
Sure.
what I got going on, obviously viewer questions as they come in.
Yeah.
And just kind of picking it apart and just having those casual conversations we do down here at the bar, like we do everyday conversation, man.
Yeah. Just like we're always talking about.
Yep.
This, that, or the other thing, It's
Yep.
all good.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you want, give the folks a little bit of background, I guess, about yourself and,
Sure.
Going forward with it.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm a friend and client of Ben's, first and foremost, and I think we met maybe 5 or 6.
Yep, right, going on 5 years ago now.
5 years ago. And, I was a Navy veteran. I was in the Navy for 10 years, and then, just moving around, kids and all that other jazz, I just never really got a start on hunting until my early 40s. And, so I was just kind of like a fish out of water, right? You start on the internet and you're looking at, the hunting beast and everybody's pictures of giants everywhere. And it's just, it's so confusing if you never really grew up hunting or, or did that stuff. I spent a lot of time in the woods, but really we only just hunted small game, rabbits, squirrels, whatever. And, but yeah, I finally got started in my early 40s, so it's never too late. I would tell anybody that, just because you didn't necessarily grow up in a hunting family, you can still find the passion for it. And I think that's really what, what took me some time. I'm a little bit older than my early 40s now.
Right.
And it just took me a while to realize that, like we've said before, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. I really, I don't even like to look at pictures during the season, to be honest with you, just because it's not my deer.
Right.
Gotcha. It's not something that I can set up a dream about and make come to fruition in that season, right? That's all off season in a couple years at time. So yeah, really that's where I've been at just now, finally getting to the point where I'm a little bit more patient, a little smarter. You've taught me a lot of cool things, access,
Yep.
That's just one of the things. I used to be like, I don't like to stand. I get out and I walk right through the middle of my whole property to get to another stand that I thought would be good. And, I was probably at maybe 20-25% seeing deer at all on my hunts. Now I'm not, I would love to be able to go out every time and see a deer. And, but I'm definitely doing better. I'm over 50% now. I see deer pretty regularly. And that to me is, a lot of the joy of it too. The sun coming up in the woods and you look up and there's an owl 10 feet away.
Yeah, the overall hunt experience in there coming together.
Yep.
For
sure.
Yep. So yeah, you got a couple properties. You got one Wayne County and then one in Cayuga, right? The other one's in Onondaga. Sorry, past Cayuga. Yep. So
I got 25 acres over in Wayne, and then 35 at my house in Onondaga, which is pretty nice. I did put in a little kind of food plot, just ripped it in there real quick, had my buddy come out with his excavator and just tore up about 3/4 an acre, threw down some whatever was on sale at Tractor Supply, and I figured that was going to be my burner spot.
Gotcha.
I just wanted to get in the woods.
Gotcha. So, well, yeah, you were showing me pictures of your plots, everything like that, and of course, as we're sitting here getting everything all set up, cell cams are going off, getting to be that right time of the year, everything like that, everything's starting to come together, but
it's just the way.
Yeah, it is. But a lot of folks have been successful this year. But I think the best is yet to come with this. We got some fronts rolling in. I think on the front side of this front, they're talking definitely pockets of heavy rain going forward, and with this next front coming in Saturday, Sunday, and maybe a spill on the Monday kind of side of it. But I think before that, the deer know that there's going to be a big front moving in. There's going to be a lot of heavy rainfall moving in. So this is, again, one of our little sit alert things. Either side of that front is usually pretty solid.
Yep.
For it. So Monday is going to be usually working day for most folks. But if you can get out, Monday might be the first day they're talking. We might get on the edge of some of the higher elevation stuff in the southern tier of frost. So getting down there where I want to see that temperature. I mean, We've been cooler than we've been the last couple years, but I think this coming week, weekend, and then into next week, the way it projects, is looking like a really good late October. So if you've been out and haven't punched a tag, don't get discouraged. And if you haven't been out at all or waiting for a crossbow, to open up, it looks like it's going to line up pretty good for, folks going forward with this front rolling in. So
yeah, I agree. It could be even better, right? We talked about the patience thing when I got here. You know, it's like, boy, the end of September comes around and I'm chomping at the bit to get out in the woods. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
what are you doing if you go out in the woods at 85 degrees, right? You're educating flatheads pretty much.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you can still get out, right? I have that luxury where I have a place that's kind of throwaway this year. But I would say to people, like, if, learning your land is also important, right? Like you might say, well, okay, we got this front area coming in, but on my property, maybe historically, I don't know if it's my proximity to the lake or what, but my stuff tends to happen a little bit later, and so I think that's half the thing. I had a good conversation with Tyler Breen when he came out to help me with my plots and stuff, was that, it really is about the process. If you can get it to the point where you're not fantasizing about shooting a poke buck, that's okay. But in my experience, that could steal a little bit of your joy, right?
It can, absolutely.
You end up losing some of that joy for the process because you're just so results oriented on the harvest
rather than the journey.
Correct, and you know better than anybody, right? The journey is what gets you, to that, to that prize at the end, So I just tell people, like when I see other new hunters and things like that, I just tell them, like, quit worrying about the pictures.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Just dig into your property, really understand it, understand what's happening on it, and try and maximize that. And whatever maximum is on what you have as a resource, then that's amazing, right? Don't I tell people, just don't get so wrapped up in what's the score of this or how old is that,
No,
especially if you're first or second year hunter, just get out there and enjoy yourself, enjoy nature, enjoy the process. All that jazz.
Yeah, better like in terms, not a dick measuring contest. As much as we're guys and we like to make it into that, that's not what it's about. And again, like you said, if you go down that rabbit hole of it, you can really easily find yourself falling into that. And that's where even my dad the other day calls me and he's like, "Hey, are you okay? Like, you haven't been out hunting." I'm like, I've had okay weather. I'm trying to get stuff buttoned up for fall cleanup around the house and get everything put away, winterized, everything like that. I'm like, it's still not quite right yet. I mean, up till the last maybe 6 or 7 years, whenever they changed it, archery season was like just starting right now.
Right.
So, and that's what a lot of people I think forget is, 6-8 years ago, we weren't even bow hunting at this point. You were still able to get out and do stuff. And I've been able to go out and do get-togethers with my family, apple picking, pumpkin picking, carving pumpkins with my little cousins, all that stuff. So that's something that's really cool. And in past years, like you said, part of that journey side of it, you don't need to just slam into the, October 1, hammer the tree every day. You can pace that out. And I've had some really good sits, but again, I haven't been in any positions where I'm going deep into a property or I'm going to my best sits necessarily. I'm going to stuff where I can see a lot of movement, see a lot of deer, maybe not necessarily get a lot of shot opportunity from that spot, but I'm also not busting that piece out
Right.
this early on. It'd be different if, some folks that had deer patterned on early food, got in there, killed them in that first week. And there was a lot of folks I know that did that with good mast crops this year of apples, good food plots, locations where there was never food plots before, and all of a sudden you set one up in one's bedroom, and he's like, oh, this is nice digs.
Right.
And then he's getting smoked on the 1st or 2nd of October.
Right.
So I would say definitely be patient with it. Nate, who is not with us tonight, he's watching at home with his little one, Owen. They got COVID right now in the house, so we thought it'd be better if we, skip the interaction because I don't need to go out. I told him, I said, you can come sneeze on me in 2 weeks when it's the first week of November.
Right.
So, but we figured it'd be a good little preventative maintenance or whatever you want to call it to be a part for this week. So, so appreciate everybody tuning in and Nate tuning in at home. I know he always does, but yeah, he had one of his target bucks actually without pushing does around in front of him the other night. And said he didn't quite get a shot that he felt comfortable with. Had him come into about 40-ish yards, and just not a shot he wanted to take. So again, being patient, waiting for the right spots, making the right sits or making the right adjustments. That said, he was in a little hanging hunt setup. Had seen deer in a previous hunt, and with the corn being all up this year, and he can talk more about this next week. Hopefully it's him talking about how he killed the buck. Shifted his strategy a little bit because the crop rotation changed versus where he's been able to hunt the last couple of years. So that's something that he's adapting with and changing with because his lease piece is a lot of agricultural ground. So that's something he can talk about more. But so it's happening. There's good ones out there, good ones on their feet. Luckily, none of my neighbors have shot any good ones either. So I'm really hopeful that there might be a few banging around in my neighborhood too. So
for sure, yeah, that's the other advantage of learning your land, right? Making that the priority is that you get more insight into those little nuances of your place. And again, I'm still learning all that, so please don't anybody who's watching this think that I know what I'm talking about, because I don't. I just listen to people who are smarter than me.
But no, it's all about, like you say, learning a piece. It doesn't happen in 1 year.
Right.
We talk about, like I talk about that 1 year rule and stuff like that, and I've seen it be applied to other properties. But I'm also talking about that mostly on a piece of property I've been hunting since 2008. So we're talking, 15 years now at this point. So there's been a lot of trial and error leading up to this point on that piece. And then my grandmother's I've been hunting just as long. So, and then just recently the data try to connect the dots with that, and try to figure out the right spots. And there's still spots that I pull old stands out of and put them into new spots, and it might only be a 50, 60-yard shift. But because of wind or other conditions or the crops have changed, owners and different hunters have changed in the neighborhood, all that stuff's going to, play into all that stuff. So, and that's a constantly evolving and rotating thing. Like I thought the corn would be off by now for silage because of the big dairy operation that's running the agriculture now at my grandma's, but it's still standing. So I don't know. Usually that'd be off by usually October 1. Right. So now it's still up, which is kind of odd. Wasn't expecting it, so that kind of changes stuff around and shuffles stuff a little bit too. So yeah, it's all different.
I think we talked about it when I got here. You mentioned something about acorns and that kind of stuff right now, and how both my properties have been logged, so I don't have I don't have any oaks on either of them. So if you don't have that, you're learning, okay, what can I do to draw them in, and you, like you said, you got to try something, and unfortunately it's not try it today, we'll get on them next Sunday tomorrow, right? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, what was it, 2 years ago I think I put out sugar beets. Like, oh, sugar beets are amazing, deer love them, it's like candy. I don't think I saw one chewed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What does that mean, right? Because they got beans on one side and corn on the other and who knows what, and maybe they never seen sugar beets before.
Trying to get used to that new crop, that new food source.
Yeah.
And the acorns is a really good point to this. We are in a super heavy mast year for most oak species across everything I've seen. Apples as well. So, and that's where a lot of these bucks, especially if they have secure bedding cover that they're already relating to, they don't have to shift food sources. They're going to pocket up on that. And if you have that set, it's money.
Right.
But if you don't, or maybe not are running cell cameras in that spot, whatever, you might not know that it's money until after season. And that's where I fall a little bit victim to it because I don't run any cell cameras. So I might be looking at it and go, oh, that deer was in there. And then you look at it and it's just like, yeah, he's on that oak flat. So then it's go back in the mental log and say, okay, if we have a heavy oak year, probably should go hunt that ridge. But we don't have a lot of oaks historically. Ours is more apple tree pockets on the properties I hunt, being that kind of Wayne County, old orchard stuff way back in the day, cattle pasture, reclamation stuff. So that changes. But I would say apples and oaks this year, this early season is going to be phenomenal. And then I've seen a ton of deer in replanted cereal grains, triticale or winter wheat after corn has been cut right now. Or soybeans, because the soybeans actually have been getting harvested around here pretty local too. So, and they're drilling in most times the cereal grain behind that. So, those plots, I've seen a lot of deer out in those fields actually recently. So, I had a comment roll in from Derek, tuning in from Idaho. Says, hey guys, hope you have a great podcast. I'm only here for a second. On my way to the reservoir before it gets dark. I'll finish the pod when I get home tonight. Cheers. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I don't know if he's probably going out to the reservoir, so he's probably going fishing tonight. Get the afternoon bite on.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
Well, they're 3 hours behind us, right? So he's
like 3, almost 4 o'clock.
He's going to be got a little time to cast before he's late for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, he's probably just getting out of work for the day, getting up there and throwing a few up on the reservoir. So.
Yeah, I think that like what we're talking about, it's just looking at the quality times. I mean, it's kind of like anything else, right? If you're not know exactly what you're doing or don't have a lot of expertise built up, you tend to kind of just like throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how you learn. That's how you make mistakes, and wisdom comes from mistakes. But you can really just kind of just slow that process down and make it so that it doesn't conflict with your life or cause extra pressure in your life, right? So the last 3 years, on Halloween weekend, there's been a Halloween party. Yeah. And I've shot a deer. Yep. At about 5 p.m. or 6 p.m.
With a party going on.
And the party is starting at 6 or 7, you know what I mean? So I'm recovering and gutting and doing all that jazz, and I end up showing up to the Halloween party, in my bloody camo or something, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm a hunter.
Cool costume.
I'm not really a hunter, obviously, you know what I mean? But I'm playing one for Halloween. So, it's just to, pull some of that pressure back, lean more into the camaraderie, and just the fellowship of it. And that really makes, I think, a huge difference. I also work with an organization called the Fallen Outdoors. They're a military and veteran support group. What we do is we get military and veterans in the outdoors for fishing, hunting, birds. They take them out on. They actually have a lottery going on right now for a brown bear hunt in Alaska. It's like,
no kidding.
Yeah, it's like $25,000
once in a lifetime kind of hunt.
Kind of thing. Yeah. Right. So that's up on there right now. A lot of it is just giveaways. For example, in New York Pro Staff, we got one of our guys. He has a charter business on Oneida Lake. He'll take some military and veterans out for walleyes, or I'm probably going to pick a day this season, and probably during gun, and get a veteran or something out or military out and just kind of support that, right? I mean, 22
absolutely.
days is a pretty grim number. And, so what we do is we kind of carry some of that fellowship and camaraderie that we had in the service. We carry it forward to this, and, just reach out and have something, right? A lot of veterans have just a super tight circle.
Yeah.
Sometimes a circle of one.
Right. Yeah. No.
And so, getting people out is really important. And I think that's really, where I'm kind of headed with my mindset is I still want to do the work right now that I'm enjoying the process.
Yeah.
Now I'm realizing that, I can use that to also share some joy and those
kind of spawn more fellowship and more camaraderie, all that stuff.
Right. And who knows, right? You might be somebody that was in the hole pretty good. You might be giving them a hand up out, right? And not even know it. That's the other challenge a lot of times that, these guys don't, and gals, don't necessarily talk about, all the stuff that they're dealing with. So, you have a thing and say, hey, who wants to come out fishing? Who wants to come out hunting? Who wants to go shoot some birds? Who wants to, do whatever? And somebody gets out and you don't know. Maybe they're just taking a break from their daily life, or they might start talking to you a little bit. I've had some really awesome interactions with people and met some really cool people from all over. And it's just I think, one of the best parts of it, you know what I mean, is the sharing and the helping.
Yeah. Yep. You said that's Fallen Outdoors.
Fallen Outdoors. Yep. It's on Facebook.
Facebook. Okay.
Yep. So you can look it up on Facebook. There are the pages for military and veterans, and then there's a separate support page as well. If that's something you feel driven to do, work with veterans or takes, some military guys out or, whatever. If you got the time and you got the drive, check it out. It definitely makes you feel good inside.
Gotcha.
Definitely makes you feel good inside.
Absolutely. So Facebook, is there a website for that too? Or mostly through Facebook?
Yeah. I think it's mostly for Facebook. They do have a website on there, but most of the action takes place, like the raffles and the events and stuff. They'll post them up on Facebook. Typically, it'll be a Facebook post, and it'll say, hey, I got, my buddy Tori might be like, hey, I've taken 3 guys out on Oneida Lake on the boat for walleye fishing. Report, respond back with fishing derby. Yep. And we'll make the drawing on, whatever date. So, it's pretty cool. And, it's all volunteer pretty much. Every once in a while they'll get, like I said, they'll get sponsorships, for some other hunts here and there. It's good stuff.
No, way cool, man. No, and you got to. I mean, we got so much that we owe to them folks that have, served and everything like that, and to give back the best we can, and whether that's time or resources or whatever it might be. It's definitely, and even like you said, even if it's not, necessarily like volunteering for an event or making an economic donation or something, even just like you said, that handout or that, hey man, how you doing? What's going on with that? To let folks know that you're there for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's that hand up, and the funny thing about it is, I was just having a conversation the other day, and my Army buddy's like, he was talking about the whole being thanked for your service thing, and he's like, man, I talked to my Army buddies, and none of us are really like that because it makes us think of all the stuff that we had to do, and while we were in, and I'm a little bit more separated from that. I got out in '97, and I was in the Navy. I was a submariner, and I kind of look at it from a slightly different perspective. I can see people getting kind of caught up in that part of it, and I definitely understand that. I look at it as, I'm no hero, but I know a couple.
Right.
You know what I mean? All my grandfathers all served, in World War II, and I just feel like what a gift. Right, like my name is counted amongst all these heroes. You know what I mean? It's not, and I have to do my best to honor that because, like I was saying, a lot of times you don't know what these men and women are going through. They don't talk about it, right? They internalize a lot of that stuff because that's what they taught us to do. So, you know, you put something out there and you reach out and say, hey, this is for you. It's fun and you can have a good time, and it's somebody who knows who you are and where you come from. You know? So it's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, having that network, you know, is key. You know, I got a cousin that served, and again, the people that don't talk about it a lot of times, any of their service, are usually the ones that seem to need that hand, and that reach out, you know, and stuff. So, for sure,
I mean, it's everybody deals with that stuff different, you know. So all we can do is just be there if somebody slips,
100%.
right? Keep them from falling all the way down if you can.
Yeah,
that's a gift, man. That's a gift to be able to do that for another person.
Yeah, absolutely. So. I had a comment roll in from Dave, a long one. Oh man, I got to scroll for this one. Dave says, first season on my new property, did some habitat improvement and a food plot. Thanks, Ben. But I don't have enough intel to feel confident to hunt yet. It's killing me not to get in a tree stand. But I think patience is the best tactic right now. I did put up an observation stand on Sunday. It is real close to the house, but I can watch part of the food plot in the cedar swamp. Might get in this weekend if the wind is right and try to get some more intel before heading to my killing stands. We talked about the being patient thing, but there's stands where, like you said, you can get out there and really start, you know, you can get your feet wet. And that's what I talked about early on in October. My first sit or two was, okay, make sure I got my rangefinder, my release, everything. Even though you go through that checklist or your pack and go, you know, I got everything in my muff or my fanny pack or whatever you're running to your stand. You know, the first night I got out there, I forgot my clip buckle for my harness. You know, so I'm like, I gotta walk back to the truck, you know, and get my clip harness and stuff, you know, for my harness and everything. So shaking off that rust or doing those dry runs is really nice. And I'm not saying, you know, don't hunt. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I'm choosing not to at this time, not necessarily because the conditions or anything like that, because the conditions have been really good. And there's been some folks that have been really successful. Like we said, Nate had an encounter with one of his targets this past week, just a day or two ago. I know a lot of, you know, folks have shot some really nice bucks this season so far. So I wouldn't say don't hunt, but just have a plan and a purpose. Be calculated with that hunt.
I mean, know what you're hunting, know what you're doing, right? You don't just
the reason.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you can point your car in a certain direction and go until you run into a restaurant and eat that kind of food. Unless, of course, you're driving around out here in Phelps, in which case you could probably drive a while and not see a restaurant, right?
Unless you want to go down to the halfway house or something, or the pizza joint. That's about it.
You know, but, you know, I think that boils back down to the joy of understanding your property, the joy of knowing the work that you put into it, the joy of doing the homework. Because when you get out there to sit, you're going to have, you know, you're not just flipping a coin, thinking, gee, I hope I see something. Oh, that sucked, I didn't.
Yeah.
Right? Or, oh, hooray, I did. It'll be, okay, I think this is a good move. We got a cold front coming in. I got a southwest wind, which works for this stand that I've been seeing some good activity in on my cameras. And, you know, and then you go out, and even if you don't see something, you can still be like, okay, why might I not have seen something, right? So you're digging more into that understanding and the natural learning instead of just chasing other people's pictures.
Yep. And again, also the calculated moves that I like to also gauge success of a sit at is, did I get in and out of that spot without one busting deer out, and I mean hearing them take off through the woods, because I view that as usually a failure to a sit. Or having deer get downwind of that location that I'm sitting that night. And again, it's not always 100% foolproof. You know, deer, if you have your property set up, should be most of the time where you want them to be in that location, but sometimes they get downwind. And sometimes it's you being a little, you know, lackadaisical with the way you're setting that up. You say, hey, I got a southwest wind, It works for that, stand kinda, but it should be a northwest, and you go sit it with a southwest, and you got some deer blowing at you. So you kind of weigh that calculation when you go. But I think a lot of times is you view that not just necessarily that you saw a deer, had opportunity to shoot a deer, is I didn't bust deer. Walking in, I didn't hear deer taking off to the next county. I didn't hear deer blowing at me from a couple hundred yards away. There's little victories in the season that you can look at and say, okay, I didn't necessarily see a deer or have one within shooting range, but I didn't bust any deer out that night. I got in and out virtually undetected, from my entry and my exit. That's a victory. It might not be the big grand old win the war, punch the tag, but that was a victory for that set.
Right.
And then if you can start stacking up those little victories and doing them without taking losses, meaning busting deer, picking a stand that doesn't work for that win because that'll be a loss. You'll burn yourself out way more burning a property out and wondering why the heck isn't anything working than, those calculated things. And then all of a sudden, once it lines up and maybe you've been just, making those calculated move, having small victories, boom, that leads to that big victory. That kind of stacks, that success up.
And I mean, set your goals.
Yeah.
Set your goals, right? Like if like Dave, and I think his name was Dave.
Yep,
Dave.
Dave.
Up, had some questions about whether he was going to sit or not sit or, whatever. Well, maybe you can set that different goal, right? Set up that burner stand like he did.
Mm-hmm.
Get, like you're talking about, go out there, like say, hey, this is the day I think, that 13 pointer I got on cam every December is going to swing by,
Mm-hmm.
And go out there as if that was it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing I feel like with, drawing on a flathead.
Yep. Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to educate them, obviously, but, you can practice on that. You're not going to shoot that deer. You can practice going to a stand. You can practice really a lot of those things and making them just part of enjoying the process.
And taking those victories. And again, there's folks that hunt their whole lives and don't shoot a buck or shoot their first buck or whatever it might be. And they've been hunting since they're 15, 16 years old, and they're just getting their first crack at a first deer with archery equipment. I've seen a lot of those posts. They're sure online, which is great. Love to see that for the sport. And a lot of people almost look down on it because it's not a Pope and Young or a Boone and Crockett deer. And it's just like, do you understand, like, that guy might have been without victories in his hunting career at all, and then he just won the war, and you're going to crap on him?
Sure.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I went 4, maybe 5 years before I shot a buck, and it was a 4-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
I got a European up on my wall. I bought a plaque for it and everything because that was the first buck I ever shot.
Yeah.
And I had done some work, and I said, okay, I'm not going to shoot any more bucks, right? I think this was right before you and I connected and started doing some stuff. But okay, I'm not gonna shoot anything less than an 8-point from on. And I had decided that if I saw an 8-point on my property, unless it was like microscopic, I was gonna take it. And I did. And it's probably a 90 or 100 inch deer, right? Nothing that I'm gonna necessarily brag about online, but that's why I stay away from all that, because I don't have to brag. It's your experience. I set my goal, right? I had, for 5 years, I never saw anything bigger than a scrub 6-point on my property. We did a whole bunch of work for a couple years running. Now I kind of took last year off, some health stuff, but I just was like, okay, well, this is improving. I'm going to take a little bit of that reward. If I see an 8-point, I'm going to shoot. And I felt like, I felt great, because I had done the work. I had put in the effort to understand. I had, tried to do this and this and that, and it felt awesome. Yeah. My son shot, before he left for the Navy, he shot a nice 11-point. Mm-hmm. And that thing was, it's gorgeous. Yeah. But to be honest, I felt I felt just as good.
Yeah, right.
To me, it was like, I look at his deer's on the wall in the living room, and my deer's on the wall in my office.
Yeah.
You know, I look at his and I'm like, wow, that's an awesome deer. But then I look at mine and I think of, I've got 3 years of
The
process to
experience,
think
yeah.
about, like, going with my seed way,
Mm-hmm.
and tilling. And I mean, I think the first year I was out there cutting down the buckwheat with a you know,
Push behind.
a push behind string mower.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that was, yeah, that was memorable
Yeah.
for sure.
And I've always told that to folks too. If the deer get you excited, don't ever feel like you have to justify that to anybody. And don't
Yeah.
feel like you need to, justify that to yourself either.
No.
If that's a deer you want to take and it's legal, ethical, you have the tag for the animal. There's no reason why think that you shouldn't shoot that deer.
Yeah.
In any capacity.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, really, I just the I'd make that joke sometimes, right? I got some young guys in their 20s that work for me, and I say, hey, old you sent me back from the future to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
take good care of your back, brush your teeth, call your mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I make kind of a joke like
right.
that, but it's true, right?
It's real life, yeah.
You're getting this advice almost like it's from the future, and it's just because so many people have gone through this process. I mean, it is personal.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has, and I agree with you 110%. Who cares if anybody else thinks if you should harvest the deer or not? You make that decision and you keep that joy for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
The minute you share that out to the world, especially the internet, there's so much poison out there.
There's always a bigger buck and there's always a smaller buck. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Just enjoy it and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
You getting any more people checking in with us?
Nope. Just gonna check across the YouTube, Facebook. We're all good and caught up. Again, we're a little earlier than normal, but Jimmy had a little bit of a ride tonight to get out here, so I appreciated his, drive out. So I wanted to be respectful of his time too, to not drag him out here too long.
No, and I appreciate you coming out. Sorry, Nate, you're not here.
Mm-hmm.
Home a little bit under the weather. Hopefully, you're having a little bit of.
He might be having some tree stand therapy.
Having a little bit of Grandpa's old cough medicine.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah, but actually, I don't know. Being 7:15, if he did go out tonight, because he's been feeling a little bit better, but he still got to have his stay away from everybody else orders or whatnot. But the woods is a good thing to social distance.
Yeah. Hey, man.
If
you got a hunting club, maybe hire somebody out. Hire Nate out. Tell him give him $100. Stop by the hunting club.
Yep.
Give everybody a week off.
Right. That's a thought. That's definitely a thought. But no, it's something that, again, and the other thing is too is, even if you're not going out there or you're apprehensive about your spot, checking your equipment, making sure you're not getting lackadaisical with any of your hunting clothes, any of that stuff. If you're trying to be as scent free as possible, make sure you're still shooting your bow. I shot my bow Sunday. In between a little bit of rain showers, keeping everything fresh, keeping everything the best that I can, be, during season. So when because you only get one shot, maybe two, a buck or a deer, maybe you want to harvest a year. Whereas I want to be that best that I can be on that one opportunity.
110%.
So a lot of my shots or practice is I take one arrow.
Yep.
And the target goes out there, and it's one arrow shot, and that you got to make it happen. And it's, and sometimes I'll bring the target with me if I haven't been shooting in the last day or two, and I'll shoot a practice arrow at the truck. I'll throw the little core insert out, throw it out there at, 26, 28 yards, shoot one on it quick, see how it feels, make sure everything's good, everything felt fine. Again, make sure you got your release, which I keep a spare release in my scent crusher bag that never comes out of it unless I'm sitting there getting my last final check for the walk-in and I go, I don't have my release. Okay, I'm going to the scent crusher bag to grab my release, my spare one. So, again, keeping in that routine, even if you're not going out, getting that routine of getting all your gear out, whether it's out of your duffel, your tote, or whatever, and going through that stuff so that, practice makes perfect is what everybody says. And, repetition is going to breed better success going forward. So if you can have that cut down and made to a science where it's like, instead of going out there and every time I'm going, "I forgot my hat," or forgot, this or that or whatever.
That's me. I'm that guy. My 2 hunting buddies are waiting outside the camper. They got ready in 5 minutes, and like 15 minutes later, I'm like, "Hey, did anybody see my fucking grunt tube?" Or whatever it is. Sorry, language. But,
no, you're good.
Like, "Hey, where's my other sock?" Or I feel like total sometimes.
And then everybody has those mornings.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how prepared you are, but minimizing those. Minimizing those conditions like that or whatever.
It is the preparation, and it's always worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's always worth it. I'm a procrastinator from hell.
Mm-hmm.
And out of 10 times, I'll be like, I'll just get up at 4:30 instead of 5 and, do it all in the morning. It's always better when I do it at 8:30 before I go to bed. You know what I mean? Just to think about it ahead of time.
Or whatever.
Make a little list. My son Josh, I had him kind of prepped from 11. We went out to Indiana before, he could hunt legally here in New York. Went out to Indiana, he got his first deer. But, on my tote, my Plano scent-free tote, I got a big piece of tape on there, and it says, "Put your release on, dummy." And I think, he was 10 or 11 when he saw it. He's like, "Dad, you're not a dummy." I'm like, if I get in a tree stand without my release, I'm a dummy.
Yep, you got it.
Exactly. I might not start out a dummy, but believe me, you get up in your stand and you don't have your harness clip, or you don't have your release, or whatever,
and you go,
you feel like a dummy.
Yep, you do. And no matter, like I said, how much you put into it, you're going to have those moments.
For sure.
It's human nature. We're flawed as humans. So even if it's knowing, and this is a big thing for me because I sit in a lot of larger poplar trees, I have to run the brand's going to escape me now that I got to think about it. Yep, I knew it was going to. Not my Muddy. My Muddy is my main one that I run for my tether in the tree, but I run a Summit as a longer line. Okay. So the Summit line I have to have for my poplar sets, for my strap for my harness, the rope.
In case you need to finagle around them a little bit. That's what happened to my buddy.
Yeah, the Summit's a little bit longer, so I can get around those big poplars. And then I don't like to tote that big, heavy Summit rope if I don't have to, because it's another 2-foot rope to get around those big poplars. So usually I'm carrying that Muddy one with a prusik, and then I just clip into it, for my harness line. But and that's the one thing that I want to get better on. But I have just so many sets, dude, that it's really hard for me to make that economic investment for a lifeline. Most of my stuff is, I would say I'm 95% ladders versus ladders to hang-ons. So I feel a lot more secure with that than I do a set of sticks and then trusting individual straps versus, stands that I'm checking, pulling, swapping straps every 3 years on those ladders and stuff like that. So, and then going through after season and loosening all those straps so they don't snap or put extra stress on them during the growing season of the summer. And then usually all I do when I go trim them, in September or August, is just release them quick and then just ratchet them in tight, but not tight.
Right.
And then that last little bit of growth, they snug in about perfect. That's what I found.
Yeah, I definitely need to put that on my to-do list, is getting out there and adjusting straps. I do have stands like that. The kitty corner out there in the southeast corner of my property is probably 24 foot.
That's up there. Yep.
It's up there, and I haven't touched those straps in 3 years. You know what I mean?
So it's like go with a buddy, and
Yeah, when I'm thinking about that, like, you got to get out there and do that. And hey, listen, I'm not preaching, but please, everybody, put on a harness.
Yeah, wear a harness.
I'm nobody, but somebody loves you, and not wearing a harness is not worth it.
Yeah,
so just like to throw that message. I know people don't like being told what to do and all that.
And my
jazz,
dad's
but-
argument to that is I just hunt the towers now. I don't need a harness.
Well, and there you go, right?
Yeah.
Like I think there is a scale of risk, right?
Mhm.
So, if you were to get up in my box blind, it's
There's no point to harness in.
yeah, 10 steps up
Yeah.
a ladder, and then you're sitting next to the buddy heater.
Yep.
Okay, so no need. Like
Mhm.
you said, ladder stand, they're angled up. It's
Top tether.
yeah, it's a straight shot. You put the belt around up at the top of the tree and clip into that when you get up there. That's pretty good. I have the Primo's not scabbard, sling
Mhm.
for my bow. It's a neoprene one. It goes on there and everything. And I've been running those since the beginning, just because I hate heights and I don't like monkeying around with my bow, and I don't like putting my $2,500 bow on
A pull up.
on a pull up. You know what I mean? Just
Yep.
So I put it on this thing. I string it on my back, and ladder stand. Just go right up, get in, clip in, whatever. And then I start taking my bow off and getting everything ready. But sticks and hang on.
Yeah.
For sure.
Lifeline.
Lifeline is the way to go. I mean, I just looked on Amazon the other day. You can get a 3-pack of them for about $70 or $80.
And for most folks, that'll set up, at least half your property or better.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, I'm a little bit on the more extreme, but not the extreme side of it, where I forget what it was this year. Between the 4 properties that I hunt, I think I'm at, not counting pop-up blinds, towers, hang on, or ladder stands, I think I'm at 38 sets.
Wow.
So
that's
economic investment.
Yeah, that is an economic. Well, it's like when I say,
Yeah.
I got 20 cellular cameras running. It's just part of it. But you know what? Guess what? You look at the weather, you look at the conditions, you're like, man, I can go to the perfect spot.
Mm-hmm.
You did that.
Mm-hmm.
You put in the work, you put in the time, you did all that stuff. That makes it even better, right? You're almost never going to be in a situation where you're just flipping coins.
Yeah. Well, the flipping coins comes down to where last year we had an abundance of older age class bucks we were targeting, and it was what buck are we going to try to, and we had a lot of great encounters last year, and we had a phenomenal year. Me and Dad both tagged out on the farms, first time we've ever done that since we've owned it in 08. And a lot of that goes to the 1 year rule. 3 of the 4 we killed were on the 1 year rule.
Yeah.
And it went hand in hand with that. So looking at that, but at the same time, it was at some points of it, flip a coin,
Yeah.
And the buck I shot last year, my bow, great buck, no doubt. And I would never pass that deer again, most likely that I can see in my foreseeable future. But the biggest buck we had on the farm was 100% killable after I killed mine,
Right.
Daylight all over the place, and even the day he was killed, he was supposed to be at the south border, and guess where he got killed? At the south border. So, there's a lot to be said for that with it, and it's part of the joy and the journey of it, and I'm thrilled for my neighbor, killed his biggest buck ever, and again, that also hooked him to saying, we were talking about some bucks we had this year, and he just goes, maybe I'll shoot one. Probably not. You get kind of the hook on that, and you go, if I wait maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then the right one comes out, it's like, or whatever. And it depends. It's all situational, but that's where he's kind of gone with it. Is I don't have to shoot that first buck that walks out into the field. There's no reason for me to do that for that piece. I could be a little picky, or
Right.
whatever. And he kind of understands that now, that there's some deer in this area that are really good quality deer.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to that experience. And again, the other thing is too, I got other neighbors that the first 90, 100-inch deer walks by them, they're smacking them, and hey man, good
More
job.
power to it.
You call me, I'll help you drag it out, everything like that. You're
Yeah.
tagged out, you're out of the woods. And then I can hunt the rest of the good guys,
Right.
So there's that side of it too.
Yeah.
It's all part of it. and everybody hunts for different reasons, and I love it and respect that, and that's what makes hunting so beautiful. But it comes back to that the deer shed at Nate's, the bar and the podcast here, that kind of stuff, that camaraderie stuff that does it all comes back around.
For sure.
You got to have that kind of core camaraderie of some sort with it. And to some folks, it might be the Facebook post is their camaraderie because they don't have the individuals to share it with too. So
yep.
There's that side of it too now with the social media.
Yeah, and I think that's again another thing, right? Look at associating, with people who are kind of in your zone, right? I have a neighboring property owner. She's a newer hunter with archery. She got a buck last year. I think it was a nice 7-pointer or something, 2-year-old buck. But, that's her first deer.
Yeah.
Like, what are you kidding me? I mean, here I am, first 3 years, nothing but squirrels in my breath. And then I get so hungry to shoot something, and I'm shooting this 4-pointer. And, just because I want to be doing something, sending an arrow, so people get these opportunities, and I just I can't think of any reason why. First of all, as a stranger, I would give a crap what somebody else does.
Right.
And if there's somebody I know, a friend or acquaintance, whatever, I'm going to be like, hey, are you happy about that? Because you should be. That's awesome. Yeah. You're going to be having some delicious venison.
100%.
And that's the other thing it boils down to, right? You've got some big deer. They taste exactly the same as the deer that I shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And if I like that and making stew for my family and chili for my friends when they all, oh, Jimmy, make your chili, right? That's a great reward too. Yeah. I mean, again, it's the family and the fellowship stuff. I mean, yes, the mount and the trophy.
Memory.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff is all awesome. But I think people lose sight of the fact that that's all the same part of the reward. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, if you've got 10 members of your family around and they're all oohing and on over your stew or your chili or whatever it is that you made, well, isn't that just as good?
And I've said that before too, that I've been very fortunate to kill a lot of good bucks. I put a lot of work in, a lot of time in. I hunt very good property. I'm not bashful in saying that. But I will tell you that even though I've killed some good bucks, some of those bucks, the hunts that I've killed those bucks on, might not necessarily have been my favorite hunts that I've ever had. Right.
Sitting there with your, 2 inches of snow on your arrow, like, mm-hmm. I know he's coming.
The right situations, the right conditions, dude. Like some of the hunts that I've had in the past, that one hunt I can think of in particular where I didn't see a buck older than 3 years old. And I saw 14 or so, I think it was 14 or 15 different bucks that day, just chasing does, grunting, fighting. It just not a couple of the 2-year-olds knockout, drag out, fight kind of stuff. Like that's the kind of stuff that you dream of. Right. It doesn't have to be a 200 inchers decking it out. You put 2 90-inch bucks decking it out like that, like that doe's the last doe in the world, man. That can be the next level stuff, and a lot of stuff people don't see. Some hunts I've had where one that comes to my mind too. I had one doe that we had the right kind of conditions in the fall, that the grapes were actually fermenting on the ground. It actually smelled like wine.
Oh wow, yeah.
And this one doe, I have it on video. I was hunting, and she was eating these grapes, and she was feeding on all these grapes. And then she gets up, gets on a stump like a stag, and falls off the stump like a drunk broad at a bar. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like some of these hunts that I'll never forget are some of the ones that I didn't pull my bow back. I didn't pick my bow up.
Right.
Or the recoveries I've had with my father with some of these deer over the years. Some of that stuff, getting called out of school when my dad shot his big 9-pointer, calls me to school and goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm in English class."
Okay.
My
Well,
dad, my dad's calling me. I got to step out right
you're
now.
not in English class no more.
Yeah, he's like, we're coming to get you. Me and your mom can't pick him up and put him in the
Right.
truck. You know, some of that stuff is some of those memories that last longer than the mounts and the inches of antler.
Yeah, I got a late start. I had two older sons. My oldest is 30, and I got my second oldest 29, and then my youngest is 19. Right. So my older boys, wasn't really into the outdoors, doing a lot of stuff. They kind of got locked in a lot of those indoors things.
Mm-hmm.
TV, internet, video games, that kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, those things are okay, but it can be overwhelming to a lot of kids. And I just really felt like, I had an opportunity to learn, like
Mm-hmm.
we've been talking about tonight.
Yeah.
Right, learn from my mistakes, gain
Mm-hmm.
a little wisdom, and said, all right, well, I'm kind of into the outdoors thing. I like it. I'm excited about it. Don't have a lot of experience, but I need to learn because I think, at the time I basically had three. I looked and I think about his lifetime license maybe when it was 8. So I said, all right, I got 4 years to learn something, and then
Transition
we
it,
can
yep.
go do some of this stuff so that he's not out there with a total idiot hating, everything because we're not seeing Jack. And, it was still a little challenging like that. I was still in kind of that hardcore mode by the time he came around. And this kid at 11 years old sat 12 hours
Mm-hmm.
straight
Full day sets.
in the sand. He would do it. And I'd be like, buddy, you want to go? He's like, well, you're not going to see deer on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
And he would do that. As he got a little bit older, he has kind of faded out of the bow hunting thing a little bit. He's not he's still about gun hunting and stuff, but I think maybe I shouldn't have let him decide that he was gonna, be just like Dad, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but I do think that that's awesome. And if people have an opportunity to try and maybe prep their kids for that, or if you don't have kids, maybe you can do some mentoring. I got a buddy of mine. He does for the NWTF. He does like some guiding. Like if you need somebody who knows how to hunt turkeys, he'll take you out and call for you and show you where to go and do all this stuff. And there's just again, there's just so much more to it than zapping a deer.
Yeah, and we get caught up in it. We all do. But I think that the definite bringing it back and trying to get other folks involved. We've had a lot of folks on the show in the last couple of weeks specifically. Steve's one of them I can think of. I went to school with Steve. He's only a year or two older than me. Didn't really have any kind of hunting upbringing. But now him and his brother want to get into hunting. Finding that in their late 20s to mid 30s or whatever that, age range is. And they want to get into it, and they're like asking questions on the show like, hey, like, what gun should we be looking at? Like, what should we be looking at for sign in the woods? That kind of stuff. And that's where I like the openness of this podcast is it's not just we're just going to record this and we're going to drop it in 3 weeks. This is all live. When people comment in, see it on the show,
sure,
they can bring in their topics and we talk about that. We flesh it out. We try to figure it out and stuff like that. And then in the interim between them, we just shoot the stuff like we would do if we were hanging out in somebody's garage.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of this show, and I think that's why a lot of folks kind of go to it. It's the organicness of it.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, there's study I got on last year. That's CNY average hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. Right? It's not covered with pictures of giant bucks. It's not anybody talking about their 650 grain arrow. It's not, this or this or that. It's just
pro staff for 9 million companies.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just average folks
who
like hunting, talking about it in, I think you use the perfect word, an organic way. It's just like, listen, there's no, I'm not trying to keep up with Dan Info when I talk to these people, or I'm not trying to think I gotta, keep up with Ben Williams, or anybody. It's just, it's just average folks that you're having an average conversation, just like you would sitting down at a basement bar with your pal.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You just talk about stuff. Oh, hey, you don't know much. All right, well, maybe this. Oh, I've got some old cameras. You don't have any cameras? I can help you out.
Yep.
Oh, you maybe need a hand setting up a tree stand or retrieving a deer.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff.
Or, hey, I've been seeing this in my woods. Oh, let me remember back. I remember that hunt I had in 2014, and that scenario is playing out like this scenario, and it sparks that conversation and that dialogue with it.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it. You sit down and you open up that whole memory bank, and the memories start flowing. Those hunts, like that drunk doe that I call that hunt or whatever. That drunk doe was probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, but I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Right. Because after you wouldn't have to marinate the meat.
Yeah, no, it's already soaked in wine.
Hey, what's the beef bourguignon or something like that, where they cook it with the wine.
With the wine sauce.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Ben, it's obviously a hobby for some people. It's a passion for others. It's a total lifestyle for some folks, right? I think it's important. What I try and talk to people about from my experience is, after starting out chasing the highest end thing, trying to figure out what was the best way to do it all, and not even realizing, not even have that functionality yet, right? Like I could say, oh, hey, how do I be the best basketball player? Well, if I spend a bunch of time watching NBA guys, I'm always going to think I suck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's a motivation killer.
You can't compare yourself on that level. You can't put anybody on pedestals necessarily or anything like that. It will never work out like that for you.
No, you just got. You have to. Again, hey, everybody, you sent me back from the future to tell you that comparison is the thief of joy, right? Like,
I love that. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, just go out and have your good time. Get up. If you need to be in stand at 6 because you got stuff cruising by at very first shooting light. Do it. If stuff's not coming out till the afternoon, maybe you don't want to sit and stand for 6 hours before things get viable. Maybe you got a Halloween party. Yeah. You don't want to get spouse aggro.
That's very fair. That's very fair with a pregnant wife right now. That's very fair, my friend. That's very fair. So, with that kind of stuff, it's you have to have that. People say that work-life balance.
Yeah.
Hunters, we have to have that work-life hunting balance and make that all kind of mesh up and work together too. So that's a big piece of why I've been kind of laying off. I do have a couple, obviously, target bucks I do every year that I put a lot of homework into and all that stuff. But if you look at my serial killer board that Jimmy says, he's like, we're getting ready to set this all up. He's like, hey, that whiteboard fall off the back of a truck on the way over here? I was like, no, that's just my leftover, whiteboard from the college or whatever. So that's my friends all call it my serial killer board.
Yeah. For sure. I don't want to be on that list.
No. So yeah, so Curly's over there. Curly's probably my number one guy. And coming up right now is when he got really predictable. Coming in this last week of October.
Yeah, I see a lot of dates under his name.
A lot, yeah. And the other ones I haven't filled in yet. Just because those will go on the board. Those are all up-and-comers. Those are all young guys. And then I just need to add one or two for the other 3 properties that I hunt for bucks that I'm going after with some historical data for that stuff. But Curly's my main guy I'm after this year. This is my first year I'm targeting kind of one buck as a guy. He's the last of the 3 Stooges. Curly, Larry, Moe. Larry and Moe are tagged, bagged, and on somebody's wall now. Congrats to those guys. But Curly's the last one on the list. He's 5 years old this year. Real solid buck. I'm not going to break any scoring records by any means, but that's not what it's about. I want to beat him in the chess game.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm waiting for here going into that. October 20th range is when he gets really day to day to day to day to day on my historical stuff. So that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah,
for him.
I don't think I've ever seen you post pictures, maybe other than like, hey, Mike, thanks for this awesome mount.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But you're not over there posting up pictures of big bucks and stuff like that. And you're right. You're blessed with that opportunity. That's like what we talked about, right? You have the resources that you have. You can either improve your resources, find new resources, or be happy with what you got, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the three choices, right?
Yeah.
That are healthy. And man, I'm again, like, I'm happy for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like, man, I wish I had access to all these shooters like Ben has. I'm like, man, I'm grateful that Ben's got that great opportunity.
It's relative. It's all relative to your situation.
Yeah.
So,
but it pays itself back too, because you're also a guy that's helping dozens, probably.
Yeah, dozens a year.
Yeah, dozens of people. Like, I know I reach out to you at any time and be like, hey Ben, I got these pictures. What do you think about that? I got this wind, this weather. What do you think about this stand? I really loved that this summer when I had you out, and I was just like, all right, Ben, here's the strategy. You got 25 acres. All your other stands got wiped out in a hurricane. You've got one stand hunt on my property this year, and that's going to be the only place you got.
Mm-hmm.
You're like Tasmanian devil. You're like, okay, this, okay, that. We got this directed. This, we're going to get this going. Here's the wind. Don't forget your bulletproof access. And it was awesome, and it's been amazing. You talked about, if you don't got acorns, you might have apples or whatever. That was the other thing that we did. We were just finding apple trees all over my property, freeing them up.
You find them all over the place, stuff that folks don't even know is on their property, especially with those springtime visits, like March, April, May, June, when they're flowering. The visits, you find all these apple trees, you ribbon them, drop a pin, all that stuff, and then you go through, release them, and then we go through our process, release them, set them up, see how they're going to produce, and then maximize after that. So, but yeah, like I said, I mean, when I'm out there, when I got a chainsaw in my hand, like you said, that Tasmanian devil, I mean, that might be a little exaggeration, but
no, I'm not. Listen, I'm not saying you cleared my whole place out, but it was, I could tell that you were on a mission. Like, you had that picture in your mind, the culmination of all that experience and knowledge and knowing what you know about my property and, all that jazz. And you're just like, okay, I'm going to put myself in that position. All right, this is my stand. I got to hunt this here. What am I going to do to
corridor goes here, bedding goes here, block this trail there.
Yep.
And moving right through it and it cutting as we go. You were doing other stuff. You were expanding that one plot.
Yeah.
Really hammering on that. But we made
change that trail.
100%, 100%. Just your view as, and that's what changes as a hunter too, which is the beauty of it. Whereas where you move from a hunter to more of a land manager type goal.
Correct.
And then you start getting that different lens in your glasses, and you go, okay, I want to make a big food plot. As a hunter, you say, I want a big food plot like the Outdoor Channel. But as a land manager, you go, I want a food plot. I want a little bit of cover, a little bit of bedding, another food plot. That makes 5 stand locations instead of 2.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you can take that big picture into account, and you start taking that, and you start just moving those little pieces of the puzzle around until it starts making that full shape for you.
Sure.
So.
Well, you said what? Now you 2008 is that when they bought the farm?
That's when my folks bought the farm. It was 2007 going into 2008. Yep.
So 15 years, right?
Yep.
And that's the other thing, right? You go on the internet, everything's instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do it with your land, you're gonna have to put some time in. I mean, listen, if you can afford to buy 90 acres down in Steuben, you might get out of the gate a little bit luckier than the other guy. Yep. Or you might not.
Yep.
right?
Again,
It just all depends.
and that's where working with good land agents with good properties also comes into play, where you know what you're looking for, or they know what they're looking at when they come into a piece of property and you're showing it, buying it, whatever, is looking at that property and going, okay, this property looks good, but you have no access. So it'll do you no good. You might kill a deer on it every 10 years, which is fine if that's your goal, or if you want to supply a bunch of people to it or whatever. But if you look at it and go, it's not. And I'll also say this as a land agent, I would, if I was in the market, put that caveat on it. If I was in the market, I would probably have only bought maybe 30% of the properties that I've shown or listed as an agent.
Right.
And that shocks a lot of people, but it's like I'm sliding toward what I want to be optimal or prime optimal. I don't want suboptimal, and I
Right.
don't want okay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'll keep looking for that right piece
Sure.
versus settling. And a lot of folks might be you buy the piece now, invest in that piece, sell that, buy the piece you're dreaming of too. So it's all over the place. There's a million different people, a million different scenarios. But I tell it to people all the time, 25 to 30% of the properties I've shown or listed, I would buy as an agent working in real estate. So that has a lot to do with it too, because I've walked into pieces with folks that they're buying or, looking at or whatever and be like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, I like that. I like this. I don't like that. It
Right.
depends on what your goals are
Sure.
too as an owner. If it's straight hunting, maybe this isn't a fit for you. But if it's camp camaraderie, it's got a cabin, family, that fits you,
Yeah.
budget fits you, it's a win. It all depends on the scenario you're looking at too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, it just boils back down to, I think,
and honest with yourself.
yeah, be grateful for the opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Be grateful that you got up at 4:30 in the morning. You can be grateful that you got a nice set of scent lock, or maybe whatever the latest and greatest flagship bro is.
Remembered your turnbuckle that morning.
Yeah. Remember your turnbuckle. You're climbing up in a stand, right? I mean, even if you think about that, there's just so many opportunities to find joy in the process. I hate to be hammering on that, but you just like, wow, okay, when
the victories.
Yeah, when the first light comes up, or you got that red-tailed hawk that comes 3 feet from your face, or you're having a staring contest with a horned owl, from 10 feet, or anybody that's been in the woods for more than 1 or 2 years has got a story that's like that.
Or maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Because they haven't been out there, man.
Or they haven't been out there, or they've been out there worrying too much about whether they're going to see a giant buck.
Yeah.
Right. I've been getting peppered with ads on my Facebook about this Hex, the Hex camo system. It's supposed to not just mask your scent, but your biometric profile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I thought about that, man, and I thought to myself, like, I don't know if it makes a difference, but I feel like I've been more successful when I'm out there being positive and not miserable. Like, if I'm in hour 8 of a sit in 29-degree weather and I didn't bring my coverall, my suit with me,
mm-hmm. Feeling it.
Yeah, and what's that energy going to do, right? We've all been in near somebody that's pissed off or
like
upset about something.
Yeah.
You can feel that, man. And I don't know if the Hex guys got it right. Like, deer can get your biometric energy off of you, but I do think it matters.
Yeah.
I do think it matters if you set yourself up to be in a position, you're grateful to be out in the woods and,
mm-hmm.
and have that opportunity. You're just going to have a better time. I think you're going to feel better about the whole thing. So That's what old you sent me back in time to tell you.
Absolutely. And Nate preaches that all the time. When we get into the broadhead debate leading into season with folks, a lot of times we all just look at each other and we just go, confidence. Whatever you're confident
Yes.
in is the broadhead, the gear, the setup you use. You go with the gut, you go with confidence, you go with what shoots best for you. Because it doesn't matter if you're running a fixed head, an expandable, a hybrid, a field point. If you can confidently put that arrow where you want to put that arrow, or that round of your rifle, pistol, shotgun, whatever, muzzleloader, confidence is key.
Yeah.
With any of it. So you have to have that confidence. You have to have that, that confidence in your setup and your approach, all that to be that successful. If you have that doubt, that's where you're going to start running into problems.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's a good place to put it for the night.
Okay.
Putting it in there with confidence, setup, to execute those approaches to the best of your ability, critically thinking about it.
Gratitude.
Small
Victories.
Small victories.
Small victories, right?
Small
Just like
victories
I say,
win the war.
Make your bed,
Yep.
and you already start out your day winning.
Yep, absolutely.
There you go.
100%. So thank you all for tuning in down here. 100 Proof Whitetails down here at the bar. Jimmy, thanks for stopping out, man. Appreciate it. Hope to have you on a future episodes.
Be happy to come back, brother.
Appreciate it, man. So, and thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you're checking this out on Facebook, check us out on YouTube. Like, comment, all that good jazz. We love hearing from you folks and bringing that conversation to you with what you want to hear. And we'll catch you all next time down here at the bar. See you guys. Be safe, shoot straight.